Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. Chelsea confirm more player sales. We also have an update regarding Chelsea's goalkeeper situation and player updates regarding Christopher Nkunku, Nicolas Jackson, Xavi Simons, Wesley Fofana and Tyrique George. Now, of course, I've given my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 10k before the end of 2025. Kicking things off, Fabrizio Romano reported an exclusive KDH to Everton. Here we go. Permanent deal agreed with Chelsea and player side. Understand the fee is worth £25 million fixed, plus add-ons up to £28/29 million in a total package. KDH, Ugochukwu and Chukwuemeka are all leaving Chelsea on a permanent deal. He goes on to report that Lesley Ugochukwu authorised a medical at Burnley after permanent deal agreed with Chelsea. For both Armando Broja and Ugochukwu sign on a permanent deal, contracts to be signed and sealed this week. Here we go. He finishes the report by saying Ugochukwu to Burnley, here we go. Permanent deal for over £20 million. This is amazing business from Chelsea. From two players in KDH and Ugochukwu, we've secured ourselves £50 million, which is wild when you think about it. Now, in yesterday's video, we covered both of these players in depth, so I'm not going to talk about them too much in today's video. I also said that once my video yesterday was uploaded, I guarantee the here we goes come, because that is just how my luck runs on this channel. But we got the here we goes. We got £50 million out of these two players, which is absolutely wild. I want to wish them all the best of luck in terms of Ugochukwu and KDH at Everton. I feel like they're going to be very important players for their new squads that they are joining. And for £50 million, Chelsea are absolutely laughing. I've said this in previous videos. Chelsea are the king of selling players. Now, I know that we buy a lot. I know that we sell a lot. But honestly, no one could really knock our business. We generate so much revenue from player sales, even players that we don't think we're going to get a lot of money for. Ugochukwu being over £20 million is an absolute bargain. And then also having KDH going for nearly £30 million, which is what we originally paid for him. Yes, the contracts are amortized, if that's how you say that word. So it means that we still make profit on the books on both of these players, which is unbelievable business from Chelsea. So I wish them all the best. You know, again, I kind of wish that they worked out at Chelsea, but at the same time, we can very clearly see the vision of this new squad going into the new season, how the squad is being developed, how we're sort of running the numbers down to just have the core and key players in the squad that Maresca can work with. So the writing was on the wall that we wanted to offload them. But that sale list that Chelsea have has become increasingly shorter in a very short space of time. And Chelsea are not going to stop there. We've got the likes of Nkunku and Sterling and potentially Disasi. There's a lot of other names on the list that are potentials that could go. Nicolas Jackson, who we'll speak about later in this video. There is a lot. And I feel like this is just very good business from Chelsea. Not only have we been aggressive in the market securing players, but we've been very aggressive in the market in terms of selling players. Carney, Chukwuemeka, discussions going on there. Tyrique George, we're going to speak about later on in the video, who now wants to leave Chelsea this summer. It's so much. There's always so much going on with this club. So unfortunately, they do go. We do make a bit of money, and I wish them all the best. Chelsea reported all the pictures of the players back in training yesterday, and one that really caught my eye was Wesley Fofana is back and training. How he did put a post on Instagram, and the caption was like, "People talk too much," or "You talk too much," and it was a bit cryptic. I assume it's because he never stays fit and everyone, conspires that we're going to sell him or he's not going to kick on and play well at Chelsea. Whatever it may be, thought it was a bit strange. But hey, here we go. He is fit and back in training. This is a huge boost for Chelsea. We know how good Wesley Fofana is when he's fit and raring to go. The problem he has is just staying fit. Last season, we saw the longest stretch of him in a Chelsea shirt staying fit from like the start of the season to, around October, late October-ish time. Then he got injured. Then he came back a bit too early from his injury, then got injured again, and it made it even worse. He's had his surgery, he's been recovering, but now he is back in training, sporting a new hairstyle, now with the blonde hair. Absolutely love the fact that he's back. I think it's incredible. He's such a strong addition into today's squad. It's unbelievable. Going into next season with a fit Wesley Fofana, an improved Levi Colwill, the new additions of Jorel Hatto, Xavi Simons waiting in the wings. You've got Jamie Gittins in training as well, Esteval in training. Unbelievable. It's just so exciting to be a Chelsea fan. I'm not going to lie. It's so exciting to be a Chelsea fan. This season's going to be unbelievable for us. So much to look forward to. But Wesley Fofana being back, fit, ready and raring to go is a huge plus, especially when you've got the likes of Jorel Hatto joining that defensive line who can play majority as a left back, and that's been made very, very clear, but also as a centre back. It's going to be very interesting to see how this defensive line develops. Is there going to be more outgoings? Is Badiashile going to stay, or is he going to go? Is Chalobah going to stay, or is he going to go? I'd ideally like to keep Chalobah. And to be fair, I think Badiashile has a very strong squad role to play, and I think that he's been playing it very well in the second half of the season just gone. But it'd be very interesting to see if there's any more departures in that defensive line or any more incomings in that defensive line. But if Wesley Fofana can stay fit, and it is a big if because we know he has reoccurring injury problems, if this is the season that he stays fit, Chelsea are going to be so solid at the back, because that partnership between Levi Colwill and Wesley Fofana up until his injury was getting better and better week by week. And we've really seen Levi Colwill kick on and develop so much this season that he is a completely different player going into the start of this season, with the likes of his partner being Tosin or Chalobah or Fofana. It's going to be a very, very interesting watch. And I feel like Colwill has solidified himself as one of our better centre-backs. He's still got a long way to go, don't get me wrong, but he's developed massively. And the mentality shift from him is unbelievable. So having Wesley Fofana back as a big boost. I just wanted to cover this. I'd love to know your thoughts down below regarding Wesley Fofana. Do you feel like this is a very strong addition to our squad? Or are you kind of in the mindset that he does have a lot of reoccurring injuries, so you're not that fussed that he's back because you feel like he might be injured relatively soon? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. S. Johnson Sport has reported that Chelsea believe they have improved the squad. Sancho and Madueke have already been replaced by Gittins and Esteval. The attack has been strengthened with Delap and Pedro, plus midfield cover has been provided with the additions of Asugo and Santos. Honestly, when you really look at our squad going into next season, it is so much stronger comparatively to last season. Yes, we had a lot of numbers last season, and the media, all the pundits were kind of taking jabs at us, and fair enough, it is what it is. The game's the game. They were saying, it's a bloated squad, where they're going to get changed, how they're going to train together, there's too many players. And across the season, obviously, we had that A team and B team going into Conference League competitions and Premier League, and we had a very poor run domestic cups in terms of the FA Cup and Carabao Cup, etc. This season, and from January, that squad number was culled, and obviously we had a lot of injuries going through that December period, but we did have the squad number to kind of see it through. Unfortunately, our run of form just wasn't as good as what we expected it to be, and we dropped a lot of points in that sort of month and a half period. Players fell off, basically, but we picked it back up at the end of the season. This season, completely different story, because Chelsea are getting rid of so many players to generate more revenue. I think we've already made something like £100 million with the Club World Cup. We've got another further £150 million to come in on top of player sales. We've already made a guaranteed £160 million in the players we've already sold. It is just incredible that Chelsea are generating so much revenue from the sales, as well as winning things as well. But when you look at this season in terms of the squad, the depth, the quality, it is such a step up. Left wing, we've got Gittins. We've also got João Pedro, who can play there. Xavi Simons is who we're going to talk about later in the video, playing in the left half space or out on the left-hand side. I know there's talks of Garnacho as well, whether if he joins or not. It's a matter of when he joins, because that's how strong the links are, and it will not go away. Looks like we'll have Garnacho to add onto the left-hand side at some point during this window. And then you look on the right-hand side, you've got Pedro Neto, you've got Esteval, Asugo, Santos as cover for Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. Mate, we are just stacked. And we now have cover for Cucurella at left-back with Hato. Unbelievable signings. Reece James is staying fit, and you've also got Ashimpong and obviously Gusto, who sort of found his best form right at the last sort of game of our season in the Club World Cup, when Maresca utilised him as that overlapping right back. If he can continue to do that going into next season, which I think he will. Maresca did tweak the system a lot through the Club World Cup, and we saw a completely different sort of Chelsea, and it worked in our favour 90% of the time, because obviously we went through it and ended up winning the tournament. It's such a strong squad. The only question mark for a lot of fans is what is going on with the goalkeeping situation. We're going to talk about that in just a second, because when you look at the rest of the squad, it is so much stronger than what we had last season. And look, there's a few rival fans that have been speaking online saying, well, yeah, if you're going to go sign 50 players in 4 years and sell 50 players in 4 years, you're essentially just buying the players until it works. But, we understand the model. Well, at least more than most fans, because this is our club. We're in it. We talk about it every single day. And it's now starting to work. Well, we are replacing players that aren't doing as well. We're able to offload these players on 7, 8 year, 9 year contracts on lower wages. And we're able to bring in improvements in key areas. I've said this from the start, that this summer window is the window to back Maresca with the right profiles and the right players to improve the current squad, because he's settled the squad, got them all pulling the boat in the same direction, singing from the same hymn sheet. He's laid the foundations, and he's won trophies. So now is the season that we kick on and really see what this team can do at the stage stage that it's at. So I totally agree. I feel like Chelsea have really improved their squad. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think that we have improved our squad? Is there still key areas that you feel like we need to improve our squad in? Very curious to know your thoughts, because I feel like this is something that will split the Chelsea fans a little bit in terms of where they feel like we need key improvements and where we feel like we have strengthened. So very curious to know your thoughts down below. S. Johnson Sport has also reported that Chelsea are talking with Tyrique George representatives to figure out the best option going forward. A straight loan is still a possibility, but Chelsea will not consider any proposals, including an option to buy. A permanent sale is being discussed too, but Chelsea would like to include a buyback clause and a sell-on fee. Very, very interesting to me. We spoke about Tyrique George in yesterday's video, how he wants to leave Chelsea because of the reduced game time. He's a fantastic player. I'm not going to go into Tyrique George too much in depth today because we did yesterday. However, I do want to cover this because it's very interesting to me that Chelsea are willing to do a loan but with no obligation to buy. I find that very strange, considering the next part is a permanent sale is an option as long as we get a buyback or a sell-on clause. Maybe the latter is more beneficial for Chelsea in terms of, cutting ties with George completely. He then moves completely, but then we know that he's going to go on and be a world beater. So having a buyback clause or a sell-on fee works in our favour more than a loan with an obligation to buy. I don't know. Maybe one's short-term money, maybe one's long-term thinking. I don't really know. But at the same time, you guys showed so much love in the comments yesterday around Tyrique George. You don't want to see him go, but it makes a lot of sense for his development, and I think it does make sense for his development. I also appreciate his professionalism and his respect to be like, I'm going to get reduced game time. It's the only reason I want to move on, because I want to kick on, I want to develop. And the club have respected his desire to play regular game time. I think he's absolutely loved within Chelsea, within the fans, within the club, within the management, everything. And I think it just makes sense for him to take that next step. As sad as it is for Chelsea fans, we want to see him kick on. Of course we do. He had such a good breakout season last season. Some say he was one of the reasons that the project stayed together because of that equaliser against Fulham. And fair point. Do you know what I mean? So, it'd be very interesting to see how this develops. I'll be reacting to it as it kind of happens and obviously getting your thoughts and opinions on it as well as giving mine. I would much rather a loan option because he's still part of Chelsea's system and we know how good he's going to be. And I feel like he could potentially be another De Bruyne or Salah-esque exit if we let him go this early, because what people obviously, they like to josh with us and they banter with us, and fair enough, the game's the game, but we did let those players go because at the time that they were at Chelsea they weren't good enough to break into the starting 11 consistently and they needed to go and develop. So they went and done that. Chelsea cut ties with them and then they went on to be incredible players, legends of the Premier League. Now, I'm not saying that Tyrique George is going to go on and do that. He may well do. We know that his potential is unbelievable and he's a very technically gifted player. I just don't want... I think maybe Chelsea are a bit cautious of that. I'm thinking, if we have a buyback clause, at least we kind of get first refusal if he does move on from another club. And if he does turn into be an unbelievable player, we'll bring it back because we know he loves playing at the club and he loves the fans, etc. So maybe that does make a lot more sense rather than a loan with an option to buy. But I just thought I was just very curious about it, really, because it's two completely different options. And I was at first kind of looking at it going, why would they prefer one over the other if they're happy for George to go on loan or on a permanent? But be very interested to see how this develops. I feel like he'll probably more than likely go on a permanent sale, and we will probably get something with a buyback or a sell-on fee and a sell-on fee. They want both of them because Chelsea value him so highly, and it's just he's not going to get the game time. So again, I'll be keeping up to date with it, reacting to it, not in real time, but in our daily videos to kind of see where Tyrique George ends up. In an ideal world, I'd love him to stay at Chelsea and get more game time, but he's even realised that that's not going to be an option. So I just want him to be happy. I want him to develop because he's a fantastic player. S. Johnson Sport has also reported that Chelsea turned down an offer from a Champions League club for Philip Jorgensen. He goes on to report the only area Chelsea will not add to, which will come under some scrutiny from fans, is in goal. They have no intention to buy another keeper now, despite pursuing Maignan earlier. They are happy with Sanchez and Jorgensen as their main choices. This is going to be scrutinised by a lot of fans, and hey, rightfully so. Rightfully so, because if you look at our entire season last season, Sanchez had an absolute stinker for most of it, and then he has massively improved in the last sort of 4 or 5 months. He's been solid, he's had less errors, his distribution hasn't been great, but you've seen sort of glimpses of it improving. Jorgensen hasn't looked as confident as we'd like him to be in goal, and that's obviously due to a lack of game time. He has, again, a very good shot stopper, very good with his feet and the distribution side of it, which Sanchez seems to lack, but nowhere near as confident as Sanchez has been. And like I say, I always give credit where it's due. I see it from both sides. Sanchez was absolutely god-awful in the first half of the season. Most errors leading to goal in top 5 European leagues. But that second half of the season, he really improved. In that Club World Cup final, man, he was Manuel Neuer in his prime. He was unbelievable. He really, really was. However, I've said this many times, going into a season where you are competing across all fronts with just 2 goalkeepers does just concern me a little, because I feel like you're lacking that third goalkeeper. Now, I know we've got Selena. Nothing's been said about him whatsoever. No loans, no is he going to be involved, no nothing. He's just on the books. Nothing said about him. I don't think there was any pictures of him in training or anything. Obviously, I'm assuming he will be there, but it's not highlighted at all. So if that's the case, we do have 3 keepers. Okay, fair enough. We at least have rotation if one of the keepers, God forbid, get injured. But it's just having your full faith in Sanchez. If he can continue at half the ability, but a lot more consistency of that Club World Cup final, then I do feel a little bit more confident. And I feel like Sanchez seems to be a confidence player. And I know that there's a lot of fans that get on his back. I was one of them. 100% call people out when you need to be called out, but also give them flowers when it's due. It's just being fair, right? And I've done both of those things for Jorgensen and for Sanchez specifically. Obviously, I don't think Chelsea are going to sell Sanchez. I think we're way past that. They've said last season many times that they feel like they're just waiting for his brain to catch up with his ability, because when it does align, people are going to see how really good he is as a goalkeeper. We've seen glimpses of it over the last 3 or 4 months specifically. He has been a lot more solid. But in terms of just going in for these 2 as the main keepers, Jorgensen I totally understand. We signed him last season for big money. We bought him because he's part of the project to develop, etc. And he had a good season at Leicester in the Championship. So I kind of get that. It's just that number one, we went for Mike Maignan. It was a market opportunity that we wouldn't pay the extra couple of £1 million for. Looking back, you kind of think, we'll just pay the extra money and you get an unbelievable goalkeeper coming to the club. There's also been links with Donnarumma, which I don't think is going to happen at all. I think that's just a way of bumping up Donnarumma's negotiations. It now seems that he's not going to stay at PSG and he is looking to move. But again, I digress on that. Chelsea are not interested in Donnarumma. And I like the fact that the club are backing these players. Don't get me wrong. I respect it. They are really backing these keepers. But again, from a fan's perspective, I'm just a bit like, I don't know what I feel about it. Yes, they can definitely go on and do a job, but can they do it consistently across a Premier League campaign? It's like 9 months of football, plus the Champions League, plus the domestic cups. I think, in terms of skill set, they have it, but the consistency is what we're lacking. If they turn out to be very consistent this season, it's a complete game changer. It genuinely is. And people will be like, oh, okay, cool, I get it now. But it's down to the players to kick on and do that. Hoping Sanchez just has a better season than last season. I feel like he will. More settled, more confident in his abilities. And like I said, the last game that we played this season in that Club World Cup final, he was absolutely outstanding. So if he can perform to that standard consistently, then we've got nothing to worry about. But I thought it was just very interesting to talk about the goalkeeping situation. I would like to know your thoughts down below regarding it. Do you feel like Chelsea need to strengthen this area and get another goalkeeper to be safe? Or are you actually coming round to the idea that Sanchez and Jorgensen are actually the best options for us going into next season? Let me know your thoughts down below. Nizar Kinsella has reported that Chelsea have discussed a lower initial fee for Carney Chukwuemeka with lots of potential bonuses due to concerns from Dortmund over his injury history. I find this very interesting because they had him as a try before you buy last season. They were fully aware of his injury history there. They're going to have more of an idea of his injury history after playing there for a season. So this is all of a sudden comes out of like, we don't want to pay the release clause of 40 million that you're asking for because of his injury history. I mean, it is a valid sort of rebuttal. It is a valid rebuttal and it does affect player prices. Of course it does in terms of medicals and injury history. It makes a lot of sense. But this is only just surface. So just very curious to know what people think about this, because it will affect the pricing, and I understand that Chelsea are willing to lower that initial fee. It does make a lot of sense, but I don't know whether Dortmund are just trying to be smart here to get a lower fee, because they, like I said, they're going to know his injury history better than anyone currently because he's played regular football with their club last season. I'm not saying he's bulletproof. Of course, we know that he can get injured for long periods of time or pick up these reoccurring injuries that take him out for little moments of time and time again across the season, but I don't know. This may be the case where Chelsea do reduce it and it is going to be something like, I don't know, 15, 20 million pounds up front and then the rest in massive add-ons and bonuses. If he stays fit, maybe they can work this to our advantage and put that into the contract or into the transfer of like, okay, well, if he stays fit and plays over X amount of games, you owe us a big chunk of money because it's kind of going back against what your concerns were in the summer. Who knows? I just thought it was very interesting and I'd love to know your thoughts on it. David Ornstein has reported that Chelsea are open to sanctioning Nicolas Jackson's departure if an acceptable proposal arrives. Interest stems from suitors in the Premier League and Europe. There is a growing expectation that he will exit, and developments are anticipated in the coming days. TalkSport have reported that Chelsea have offered Jackson to Newcastle, Manchester United and AC Milan already this summer. They go on to report that Chelsea remain open to selling Jackson for the right price, which is believed to be in the region of £80 million. Chelsea could also be opening to loan out the 24-year-old, but would likely want an obligation to buy at the end of the deal. Now, this is very interesting. We spoke about Nicolas Jackson for most of this window. I don't see Chelsea doing a loan with an obligation to buy. I think that is completely off the cards based on what they've told us publicly and all these reports and briefings that have come out in the last few weeks. They are more than happy to keep Jackson. They see him as a very good striker and potentially going on and developing even more. Us as fans, some really want him gone, fair enough. A lot of us want to keep him. I think that this is the season he needs to kick on. After this season, if he doesn't, with the competition ahead of him, then it's going to be a long day at the office for Jackson, let's be honest. However, Chelsea have said that if they get a very good price, around 80 million, they'll quite happily let him go. They even said they will drop it to 60 million if it's not to a direct Premier League rival. Yeah, that much is right. We have offered them to AC Milan. We have offered him to Newcastle just to kind of test the waters and say, hey, Jackson's here. Jackson is here. Do you want him? This is how much we're asking for him. So there's been one more thing announced in the reports. Fabrizio Romano says that Nicolas Jackson will probably leave. Now, this will change things. This will change things in the Jackson scenario, at least in my opinion anyway. I'd love to know your thoughts down below regarding Jackson staying or leaving. If Jackson wants to leave, he can push for a move. Now, I feel a lot of this weighs on Isak going to Liverpool or Sesko, wherever he ends up. Is it United? Is it Newcastle? It will be a domino effect. That's how it will be. One of these transfers will happen, and then it leaves Jackson open for the opposite suitor who didn't get their target to then come in for Jackson. Chelsea then rub their hands together, ask for a premium price, whether it's between 60 and 80 million. And if Jackson wants to leave because of the competition, which we spoke about in a few videos ago, I made it very clear from his recent reports, or his recent interviews of his thoughts of things. He was happy to do the job that the manager's going to pick the best 11. He's got a role. He knows how to do it. He wants to do it to the best of his ability, which I totally respect. But I also said that I kind of want my number 9 to be like fight and talk. I want to be the guy. I want to make sure I'm the best I can be in my position. Regardless of that, if Nicolas Jackson wants to leave, I feel like the move will definitely happen. I'm on the fence as to whether it will happen or not right now, because I feel like there definitely is a place in the squad next season for Jackson. Enzo Maresca has already prepared and started planning for the season with Nicolas Jackson in mind. We brought in Delap to give him competition to bring the best out of him. And also João Pedro can play as a 9. We've seen how good he is in that position, but primarily he could play anywhere across that front four, and he's also been brought in as a versatility player. So he does technically have 2 players in front of him that he's got to compete with in current form right now. Can Jackson get back into that start 11, be that starter number 9? I totally think he can. We all know what he needs to improve on. It's his discipline and his finishing. If he does that, yeah, 100%, because the rest of his game is fantastic. Delap brings in something different. João Pedro brings in something different. So it also gives Maresca versatility. So I think Chelsea keeping him is a good move. I also think us selling him for mad money is also a good move, because it's just more profit on the spreadsheet, and we can then use that money to then go reinvest in that position when we need to, because the current squad right now is in a very, very strong position, and it's just exciting for Chelsea fans right now. I'll keep going back to it because it's over the last 2 or 3 years of us going through hell and back and the roller coaster of emotions of all the managers and the results and the players, we can now start to enjoy this and be excited for the next season. So it's very interesting to see what will happen with Nicolas Jackson. It looks like it's more increasingly that he will leave. There is more talks of him leaving than there are talks of him staying. But Maresca did say that he's planned next season with Jackson in mind to have competition with Delap. So it'll be very interesting to see how this pans out. So let me know your thoughts on Nicolas Jackson. Will he stay this season? Will he go? What is the right decision for us to do? S. Johnson Sport has also reported that Chelsea are still working on the sales of Sterling, Chilwell, Vega, Carney and Disasi. They want to get their situations resolved before entering the final week. Look how short that list is compared to what it was at the start of the window. Just take a look. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 names, which is still a lot of players to offload, by the way. I feel like the most difficult ones on that list is going to be Ben Chilwell and Raheem Sterling because of the wages and the current contracts they've got remaining left. What clubs are willing to pay Who knows? We know that Sterling has been linked with the likes of Fulham. That does look like it could potentially happen. Chelsea even said that we'll cover his wages for the remainder of his contract, so you can just pay the transfer fee to help them out there. Nothing's really progressed in that sense, but again, we'll react to it when it does. Nothing's been said of Ben Chilwell going anywhere. Maybe another loan. I don't know. Maybe Chilwell just wants to run down his contract. I don't really know. But that sale list that Chelsea have had since the start of the summer to now is reduced massively, and it's doing it very rapidly as well. There's still other players on that list that, potentially a Nicolas Jackson exit. Christopher Nkunku we're looking to offload as well. So Chelsea are just going to be generating so much revenue in terms of sales. And I'm just surprised and shocked a little about that sale list being reduced so quickly from how big it was just a few weeks ago. We offloaded 2 players yesterday. Potentially 3, potentially 4. Like, there's just always these sale deals that are working in our favour behind the scenes. Yes, we're bringing in players as well, but now we've switched to that selling. This list is getting lower and lower. So I just want to know, will Chelsea get all the players off the list in the summer window? Because I feel like we can. I genuinely feel like we can. Carney at a reduced rate. Fair enough. We just spoke about that. That's potentially going to happen if it is at a reduced rate. Disasi's a bit of a funny one, really, because Aston Villa were interested, then they weren't. There's some other clubs that were interested, and they're not. So it'll be very interesting. I feel like we can offload Disasi relatively easy. Renato Vega, I feel like we can offload if we reduce our demands just a little bit, so we still make a lot of profit, but not as much as we're demanding. Otherwise, I feel like no one's going to come in and pay 40 million euros for him or 40 million pounds for him. Chilwell and Sterling is the one I'm like, question marks. I don't know whether we had managed to get them off or not. Whether it's on loan or ideally we want permanent sales this summer. Chilwell's going to be the difficult one. He's on big wages. So is Raheem Sterling, to be fair, but there has been interest in Sterling already, and we've also made compromises regarding Sterling to get him off that the 2 years left on his deal. So maybe Sterling goes. It's just Chilwell with a bigger question mark, at least in my opinion right now. I'd love to know yours. But do you think that Chelsea are going to get rid of all these players? Or do you feel like we're going to be stuck with a couple, at least going into the January window or potentially next summer window? S. Johnson Sport has also reported that Christopher Nkunku, who is valued at £43 million, has been given permission to miss the start of pre-season training. He is the subject of inquiries from a number of clubs in England, Italy and Germany. This is the one player who I feel will be the next out of the door. I feel like this will be the next sale. Well, other than the Carney one that's being spoke about and Tyrique George, which is kind of in the works, right? The next sale that I feel is going to be out there, or the next player that's not on that list, is going to be Nkunku. I genuinely feel like that. Now, there's been some conflicting reports. Chelsea have obviously valued him at 43 million. There was also another report recently that it's gone down to 35 million pounds. Whether that's specifically for Italian clubs or not, I don't know. Inter Milan did come in and say, hey, we can pay the money. Juventus also said the similar thing with Jackson, saying we can pay the money. It's just the wages. If the wages aren't a problem, we can do it. So it'll be very interesting to see how this develops. And again, I've spoken about Nkunku many times here on this channel in previous videos. I don't want to, stay too long on it, if I'm being honest. I just wanted to kind of keep you guys up to date and react to this as it was happening. £43 million for Nkunku in this window, I feel is achievable as long as the club has the money to pay for it. That's literally it. Be very interesting to see where he does end up. According to a lot of the reports recently, the English clubs are very mid-table clubs. He wants to play for a top club in Champions League football. Fair enough. So it looks like it will probably be Italy or Germany. Will we see Bayern Munich come in late in the window and try and swoop in Nkunku? Because they have been eyeing him up since January. Chelsea outpriced him in January, obviously with January tax on top of his fee. I think it was like 80 million euros we wanted, or something silly like that. Or it might have been 60 million euros. It's around about those fees between those two. Bayern Munich were like, no thank you. And now the summer that it's been reported very early on that Bayern Munich have been keeping an eye on the situation. So I feel like it's either going to be an Italian team or a German team. And I think, if I'm predicting right now, I'd say that Bayern Munich come in late and swoop Nkunku up and try and get a discount because the window is shutting. And maybe we do let him leave for around 35 million rather than 43. That's just my predictions. We'd love to know yours down below. But that is the situation with Nkunku right now. He's not at pre-season training. So again, Chelsea are even preparing for his exit. They're saying, yeah, you can miss pre-season training, or at least the start of it anyway, because we know that you're looking for a move away. Maybe they're helping in that sense. We're trying to find a suitor for you. Let's make it as easy as possible for you in terms of the cut between one club to another. But that's the Nkunku situation. Fabrizio Romano has given us a little bit of an update regarding the Xavi Simons deal, and he says, I know fans want Xavi Simons straight away, but calmer. I told you selling players will be the next step, and now Chelsea are getting lots of important money from sales. Carney Chukwuemeka to Dortmund could also be done at any moment. He goes on to say, last week I gave Xavi Simons a 70% to Chelsea. Today, on Monday, I'm giving an 80%. It looks increasingly likely, but some work to do, but advanced. He then goes on to say that Xavi is waiting for Chelsea. He finishes by saying more on sale. Sterling will go. Jackson can go. Nkunku will go. George can go on a permanent, but what this means is Chelsea will be ready to attack new signings calmer. Now again, I know this isn't a huge groundbreaking update regarding Xavi Simons, but it's nice to know that, you know, a few people have said it's going to be quiet, this isn't going to happen, and it's just nice to kind of have a bit of a touch base with it to kind of see where we're at. Chelsea and Fabrizio have said many times that, you know, we're going to focus on sales, generate some revenue, and then go in for Simons. And look, that's exactly what we've done. We've got rid of like 2 players instantly, 2 more players in the pipeline in terms of leaving. Well, more in the pipeline in terms of leaving, but we've generated money, and then, you know, look, the money we've already generated covers the Xavi Simons deal and more. Even the signings that we've already made this summer, it's just wild how much we're generating. But I feel like Chelsea needed to switch their focus into sales because of that long list I said at the start of the window of players that we need to get rid of. That's been really cut down. We've still got some key players to get rid of in terms of Sterling, in terms of Nkunku. You know, it'd be interesting to see what happens with George and with Jackson and various others, like I said earlier in the video. But essentially, it's still going on. Xavi Simons only wants Chelsea. He's waiting for Chelsea to basically get it over the line. Chelsea and Leipzig are discussing that fee. No bid has gone in. No formal bid has gone in for Xavi Simons. But obviously, Chelsea are waiting to get that deal done. I can assume that we'll probably offload 1 or 2 more players, and then we'll go in for the Xavi Simons deal. I'm predicting, and again, my predictions are usually horrible, but I'm predicting by the end of this week that the Xavi Simons deal will be done, purely because I've got a funny feeling that Enzo Maresca doesn't want to sign a player once the season starts. I'm not saying it's solely down to him. This could go all the way down to the wire. This could be one of those deals that goes all the way down to deadline day. Obviously, we hope it doesn't. But I feel like the Garnacho deal will be the deadline day deal, if that makes sense, to, you know, get over the line. I feel like Xavi Simons will be sorted before the Premier League starts. That's my prediction. I feel like Enzo Maresca is going to want to be able to utilise him as soon as possible, as he is a very Enzo Maresca style signing. So they're my thoughts on the Xavi Simons deal. Like I said, I just wanted to react to that. We've gone from the here we go meter's gone from 70% to 80%, whatever that means. But essentially, we're getting re-informed that he only wants Chelsea. They're just waiting for the 2 clubs for that transfer price. So nothing too exciting, just a little bit of an update regarding Xavi Simons. But again, we will react to things as and when they're reported. But let me know your thoughts and opinions on Xavi Simons. Do you feel like it's going to get done, or do you feel like we're going to let this one slip through the net? And that's all the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you did watch this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that. You're a real one. But secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.